Ramon Scott, and I'm joined by my partner at EastCountySports.com, Dave Dickens. And Dave, we brought in a special guest this week from the KUSI Prep Pigskin Report and East Village Times, Chase Osborn. Chase, thanks a lot for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having me on.
Good thing you don't know anything about prep football because we gave you about 5 minutes to prepare, and we're going to expect you to comment on every single matchup involving our teams this season. Dave, we tried to have an interview earlier, and I think we still did a pretty okay job. We brought in Coach Ron Berner and, of course, Coach Casey Ash of the West Hills Wolfpack, try to preview the game this week with the Tony Berner Memorial Trophy. These two rivals have kept this series alive and added the shining new flame last season with the creation of that award. Accompanying the dual school scholarship program, Berner, the longtime son of El Capitan coach Ron Berner, passed away in June of 2017. Of course, Dave, he was a great quarterback, a record-setting quarterback with the West Hills High Wolfpack, and an assistant coach with his dad with the Vaqueros. So, Dave, you're going to head out there for the second straight year. Maybe West Hills is favored to win this one. The ratings have it extremely close. And, I don't know. I said earlier to those guys, maybe the shoe's on the other foot. Since El Capitan kind of upset West Hills last year, West Hills maybe going to go in and get a win this time and get that trophy back.
Well, my deepest apologies to Coach Ash. I still think that when it's all said and done, it's going to belong to Mr. Berner. Here's the thing, too. Let's clarify. So many people are confused, kind of like when we talk about the Santana and West Hills. Is it the Mayor's Cup? What kind of cup is it? They change it around all the time. So the official word that I got from Coach Ron Berner, it is, in fact, the Tony Berner Cup. So now that we got that out of the way, it is a cup. Because Coach Casey Ash was asking too. He goes, I know we're playing for a fantastic trophy cup. I'm not too sure, but I will eventually know exactly what it was. But we got to look at it this way. I mean, it's the second annual. So, we're going to give him a pass on that. Last year's game, I will tell you what, it was just one of the most emotional games I think I saw of all of the Grossmont Conference games that I had seen last year. And there wasn't as much on the line, kind of similar to what we got going right now. I mean, El Cap's looking for their first win. There's more on the line, I think, for West Hills because they are at 500 right now. They're 2-2. However, I think realistically in the Valley, West Hills has to win pretty much the rest of their games. They have to win out if they really want a possible home game, and they want to have possibly the top seed, because otherwise I think they're going to have a little bit of trouble. On the other hand, you have El Cap. They need a game just to try and really get their team going and start possibly winning some league games, and maybe they win 3 or 4 games and then possibly squeak into the playoffs. I think the El Cap team deserves it. They play in a very, very, as you know, tough Hills League along with Valhalla, and those top 4 are powerhouses. We'll get into that again later. I do want to touch again on that and let Jerry Schneip know how we feel about that, and Brian Wilbur and all those nice fellows. And I really think, though, that this is real important for both teams. But I think El Cap being at home, and I believe that they are going to be wearing their mustard uniforms, I believe they were saying.
Those are gold, baby. Those are gold.
Okay,
make no mistake.
The gold. Okay, we're not talking about the Padres. I apologize, Coach Berner. We will leave the mustard off of the sandwich, and we will go back to the gold. And I really honestly think after seeing their play 2 weeks ago versus Patrick Henry, which let's not take anything away from Patrick Henry. They are a much improved team from San Carlos, and I think they're actually underrated. And I was there 1 quarter, 52 points in 1 quarter. I said, I tell you what, I don't know how they do it, Chase, how they do it when you got a score like that. But in my mind, I'm going to go to Grossmont and I'm going to go see what's going on with Olympian because it's 14-10 Olympian at the half. And I'll tell you what, I'm glad that I did make a change because uh, that game ended up being pretty decent. But then what do? I get a text. Here it is from Ramon. By the way, I think it was an 8-point game, and it was in the fourth quarter with about 6 minutes left. Ramon, I almost wanted to turn around and go back to Lakeside to catch the end of that one. What was the total score? I think it was at least over 100 something points. Bottom line, El Cap is an offensive. They're just an offensive force. Wickhauser, one of the better quarterbacks, underrated, I think, most definitely. Donnie Green, who we had on yesterday, I think the offensive line gets credit, but I think also Donnie Green is just one of those downhill runners. He kind of reminds me of a Tom Rathman. He just mows people over. I think he's fantastic. And not to mention, not only can Wickhauser throw an accurate laser, but he can also move as well. He has a couple of seams that he can find, and he is very quick himself. So I think that West Hills is going to have their hands full as far as containing that offense. But on the other end of that, I really think that El Cap's defense has their hands full also with the likes of Stephen Christini. Cole Klingerman is probably one of the best receivers in the Valley. I've seen some of these catches he's made, and it's not just the catch, but it's the yards after the catch. And let's not forget about Jake Mayhew. He is very tough to stop. Not to mention he makes his own stops on defense. So it's going to be, I think, a shootout. And I think whoever scores at the end of the game when the clock is at 0, they will win that Tony Burner Cup. I'm going to go with El Cap by 2 points.
Well, it sounds like an El Cap touchdown at the end of the game is basically what you're telling us, David, kind of a shootout. We've already committed, Chase, Dave and I have already committed to kind of El Capitan, maybe because of their 0-4 record being at home. They still retain the trophy. So West Hill is going to have a little bit of a motivation, extra motivation on their end, saying, we did lose the game last year when we were maybe expected to win at home. In that game, West Hills lost to El Cap 31-21. Several players that Dave mentioned played in that game. Wickhauser had 2 touchdown passes, ran for another. Donnie Green, he had a strong rushing game, over 140 yards. He had over 20 carries in the game. So even though Dave characterized this as maybe a shootout or a passing game, West Hills quarterbacks, they're extremely efficient. They don't get down the field very far, but they don't make any mistakes. I see this game being actually controlled on the ground, maybe by both teams wanting to establish the run. I see more of a low-scoring game in this one. I've already kind of committed to El Capitan, but not going to slight those guys on West Hills. He mentioned Klingerman and Christini, but I think Jake Mayhew going to get a big dose of him.
Just remember lunch on that one, huh?
Well, we're both going El Cap, Dave. Chase be at least throw the West Hills a bone.
Oh, I think I can agree with Dave on one thing when he said that Patrick Henry has certainly turned around. San Carlos, that's my neighborhood, got to represent there. But I think I will take West Hills, actually. I got out to a West Hills game. What you said about those West Hills quarterbacks being very conservative with the ball is absolutely true. They make the right passes. They make the right reads. The Klingerman twins, Kip and Cole Klingerman, are playmakers. Knew them in middle school, actually. And not only are they playmakers, another thing they play with is heart. Those are the type of guys that now that they are, I believe, seniors, they're not going to let their team get down. They're not going to let their team get behind and stay behind in the game. They're going to keep up with El Cap, and I think that's what's going to push them over the edge ultimately in this game. So, yeah, I think I'll take West Hills. Let's go by a 2-touchdown margin. I'll take West Hills by 14.
No, well, let's not forget, Ramon, before you add your 2 cents, I think who we forgot on the El Cap side, and I don't want to upset them since they are such a large family and they played such a huge part of the LCAP history. Even in the basketball arena, let's not forget about the Oakleys, because I'll tell you what, they are going to be a huge part as well, especially on the outside. I think even involved in some of those bubble screens that Coach Berner likes to run occasionally. And we all know, too, that those kids are very fast, very quick, and they are very smart players. And they have great field vision, reading the defense, and they are great route runners.
Well, I think I'll throw in my wild card then for the game. I mean, certainly Savion Oakley has had some good performances so far, and those kids are young, so we're going to see more of them. But I've been impressed mostly, I'd say, by junior Kalen Lavallee. To me, this player has great hands at catching Hauser's passes, maybe also towards the sideline. He can kind of out-jump sometimes defenders. So I'd look for maybe Kalen Lavallee to be that maybe that player, Dave, that scores that touchdown. You remember last year, a big touchdown came in the game. One of Hauser's touchdown passes was to Nathan Schunk, who went up and caught that ball. It was a big, big play at the time. So I don't know how much more that I could add to this game, other than the fact that West Hills leads the series 16-15. So maybe that's also why I'm going with LCAP. But I just want to see LCAP get on the board. In the big playoff picture, Chase, I don't know if you looked at Division 3, but LCAP's in big trouble right now. They're in 16th place. But if they win this one and they get their league win over Valhalla, their strength of schedule is going to increase because of their matchups in the Grossmont Hills League. If somehow they could just get one of those victories, maybe the Hillers, maybe the Eagles, somehow, some way, that will be enough, I think, to get them up into the Division 3 playoffs. And interestingly, they could go up against some other teams, Dave, such as Hilltop or Modern Day Catholic, teams that they've already played and kind of got beat by, but early on they were in those games. That defense gets a little bit of confidence. I'm thinking maybe they could do something. West Hills actually may be able to not afford a loss at all. I'm sure the pressure is on with those coaches. They're sitting in 12th place in those official rankings. But if they did lose this game, they have some league opponents. I mean, we all know that the Valley League, even though Santana might be the favorite, and Mount Miguel second or Monte Vista third with West Hills, I don't think it's out of the question that West Hills could beat two of those three teams and maybe still secure their spot inside that top 12. Chase, that sound okay?
Yeah, I think that's about on point. Yeah.
Dave, West Hills, can they get by?
You know what? I think if it ends up where they have to face a team like Hilltop, here's the thing. I think that, and I mentioned this last week, we were always talking about Eastlake from the South Bay. But I have to tell you, Burner the Third, which is kind of interesting, his Hilltop team, I think, has pretty much taken over the South Bay. And I think that Hilltop, in reality, they're the big team down there that I would be fearful to have to face them, especially at home down there in Chula Vista.
Yeah, I think it's fair enough, at least for this year and maybe another year. Things are looking good there. So just everyone, that's our game of the week, certainly. I know there's a lot of great games, but want to encourage everyone to get out to that one for the Tony Burner Memorial Trophy, Dave, this Friday at El Capitan, the scholarship program, the golf tournament that precedes it. They've raised that money. So anything else to say about this very, very important event on Friday night?
Well, Chase, it's too bad if you can't make it out to that game, because that's one of the it was probably one of the best games of the week last year. As mentioned before in our earlier show, so much emotion, and I think and I didn't want to say it to where it would offend Coach Ash, but I think really what ended up happening is the West Hills Wolfpack got a little bit too emotional, and I think eventually that was the Achilles heel that ultimately lost that game. So I think that's how El Cap actually came out on top, to be quite honest. And hey, football's football. No offense to anybody, but that's how it played out.
Well, that's what's going to happen. I mean, there's going to be emotions riding high in that game. So you have to play that fine line of playing with extreme emotion, yet keeping it in check at just the right time. And in a close game like that, that could be the difference. Okay, let's start running down our schedule of games. Guys, put all the talk of the Highlanders' possible 1-4 start to rest. Days Helix completed the sweep in the Gauntlet Series. They defeated previous co-number 1 St. Augustine. How they jumped over Cathedral as well, I don't know, but 44-38, the Scotties rocketed to a 38-10 lead behind a pair of touchdowns by Las Vegas area transfer Keontae Scott from senior quarterback Cameron Brown, along with 271 yards and a touchdown from senior Fato Noah. Helix staked its claim to the county best, Dave. Jeremiah Fletcher had the game's first touchdown with a 25-yard scoop and score, and Delshawn Traylor had a 62-yard rushing touchdown. They've got 2 very good quarterbacks at Helix, Dave, and they're taking on Oaks Christian of Westlake Village this week.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, it was such a pleasure, first of all, to have such a great athlete that we did have last year. Chase, last week. We had Cameron Brown. He was on our show last week. Very football knowledge kid. He really was really pleasant to have on, and just the way that they have geared that. Typically, I think that the 2 quarterback system, I'm not typically a fan, and that's not a shot at Coach Robbie Owens, but the way that they have it set up. Neither one of them have anything against each other, which is even better. And then that also puts relief to where we all know that Delshawn, he's already got a spot. He's already, what is it, Navy? He's
Army.
heading over to Army. So he's heading over to Army. So in reality, he knows he's going to be the quarterback. So I think with that being said, he's probably got that thought that, you know what, Cameron deserves to have these snaps, and he has done a phenomenal job filling in for that injured Jeffrey. But from what I understand, it wasn't even about that in the first place. Early on in camp, he was so well and so accurate and so quick, and he knew the playbook so well that Robbie Owens decided, you know what, you're definitely going to be complimenting Delshawn, and we've seen the results. I mean, look what we did to Cathedral, and again, we did the same thing, almost a carbon copy against Saints. However, it got a little worrisome towards the end of that game. The defense, I don't know if we were throwing some second string guys in there, checking our depth. I think that was probably the idea, so we didn't, overdo our first stringers. But it got a little scary there because they what was it, 44-38. That was a little too close for comfort. Although they did get the W, I think Coach Robbie definitely knows what he's doing, and I think whoever plays Helix from here on out, they better be very, very good at scheming.
Chase, you're a year removed from this program. These are your boys. I don't need to say anything. Give us the inside scoop.
Well, at the risk of looking at Lee Corso from College Game Day, give me 1 second.
Oh gosh, he's gonna put on. He puts on a. Okay.
Here we go.
Give the Lee Corso wave too.
I'm gonna go get my Granite Hills hat right now.
Yeah. Tell me from your perspective. I know you probably talk to these guys maybe on a weekly basis. Can you capsulize what Dave said about how that situation emerged with Brown? Look, I mean, Cameron Brown is going to go play football at some other position. I mean, really. But I'm talking about in the future, but given what Helix needs and getting the ball into the hands of the athletes, what transpired there, and give Coach Owens all the credit in the world for making this type of switch. It really, to me, has almost made the difference in why we've beaten these teams that maybe we were underdogs to heading into just 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. when you talk about Cameron Brown, a lot of people were questioning that move early on. I know if you follow Delshon Traylor on Twitter, he had to tweet out, "Stop asking me why I'm not playing quarterback," which is funny to me because honestly, I was asking why Cameron Brown wasn't getting the ball more. I love how dynamic and explosive he is in that backfield. He's just like Dave said, he has a lot of football intelligence, and with that, he knows when to scramble, he knows where to scramble, he knows what moves to pull to get open, and he knows where to throw the ball when he's scrambling, which is important. A lot of quarterbacks will scramble and improvise, and then they lose track of their receivers, right? Basically, the way that Cameron Brown came about as a quarterback is, first of all, obviously Jeffrey Schrock is injured, but on top of that, they needed somebody to complement Delshon Traylor because Delshon is playing defensive back. He is going on special teams. He's playing not only two ways, but always on that team. And for the same reason that Helix needs depth at the running back position because they can't workhorse Alelion Noah every play of the game, they needed to have some depth at the quarterback position because playing Delshon Traylor on offense, defense, and special teams and relying on him only to have him go down with an injury or cramps wasn't going to work for Helix. So they basically took Cameron Brown, undersized slot receiver, as I believe Top Dog put it, into the quarterback position because that was sort of the position he played when he came into Helix. That's what he came to Helix to do. They moved into wide receiver, but now that he's moving back, that adjustment is being made really well. Another few key players on that Helix team that have been helping along this route are obviously, as you said earlier, Jeremiah Fletcher, really solid defensive, not defensive lineman anymore, linebacker. He was a defensive end last year and made a really smooth transition to playing linebacker. And honestly, with him, John Carroll, and Jerry Riggins, I feel like Helix has one of the better linebacking cores in the section, if not the section, at least East County. And overall, I just think with a strong wide receiving core and the philosophy of Helix is Helix, I think that's going to lead to their success overall.
Now, talking about Helix and let's kind of, I mean, league is around the corner. Would you not circle this on your calendar if you were a Highlander? And would you not circle this? Let's just say anybody that is a Helix fan or is part of the team, Steel Canyon has got to be the biggest circle and highlighted. And we want to play that game again. What are your thoughts on Steel? I mean, realistically, if you watch one of their games or watch some of the film, they have an underrated defense. And I tell you what, even in the secondary in particular, they are fast, they are physical, and even their D line, everybody talks about their offense, but I'll tell you what, that defense is what's keeping them in these games. That defense is what's winning the ball games and why they're undefeated.
Well, their defense is certainly underrated. The Steel Canyon defense is a touchy subject for me. Junior year, I was a quarterback for the JV Helix team. Antoine Walker, one of Steel Canyon's corners, picked me off to end the game and beat us JV season. So, I mean, firsthand, I can speak to how dynamic that defense is. I played against basically their whole secondary my junior year. I got to see them live last year. Steel Canyon breeds athletes. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what they put in the water over there. They're just phenomenal at doing that. I mean, you can look at their offensive side for proof. They got this absolute stud. It's Chance Johnson, I believe, right?
Yes.
He's ridiculous. He's not as good as Fado Noah, but shades of Fado Noah. That kid is so shifty. Shades of Reggie Bush, actually, in his play style. But, yeah, that defense is really underrated. And I think a lot of the people that were shocked that Steel Canyon was put at 2 in those CIF rankings, I was too. But honestly, people who are saying that they couldn't give Saints a game or couldn't give Cathedral a game, I think are crazy. I think Steel could definitely give both of those teams a game. It's underrating Steel is what lost us that game last year for Helix, and I think if they do it again this year, they'll certainly lose. So Helix, yes, can have this Oaks Christian game circled, but if they beat Oaks Christian, I don't think that a 4-1 record should make them think, oh, we're unbeatable, we can just coast through league, because that's not going to happen this year with the Grossmont Hills League this deep, especially with Steel Canyon threatening like they are. You're absolutely right.
You know, and Steel's probably the deepest threat, but and I know that they've played some I don't want to really put an attack on the teams that they played, but the Grossmont Foothiller offense has really showed up now too. So I think that is what really is put it into it could be a four-way championship Hills League. I mean, it's never happened, but is there a possibility? Absolutely. I think Granite Hills with their defense, they got the same thing going for them. I mean, you guys know. I mean, yes, you did second half. You guys pretty much figured them out, but you tell me, is that not one of the hardest defenses to figure out the different looks, the multiple upfront looks that they give that offense? I mean, if you're a coordinator, you're probably pulling your hair out when you're having to face those guys. We just had one last week, Jeremiah Sapbury. I think another underrated lineman that just a fantastic player. And then the smaller guy that's been there and he's been all East County. He's in his final year, Ethan Bishop.
Yeah, that defense was actually really hard to figure out. We went into that game definitely not knowing what to expect. We did end up figuring them out, and we sort of pulled away late. But it wasn't. It definitely wasn't the easiest game of our season. I'll tell you that. It was certainly a challenge early on, and I feel like had we not gone into the locker room with sort of this attitude of, this is Granite Hills, we really can't afford. I think it was our situation at that point in the season that really made us win that game. I don't think it was a matter of like us doing anything or changing anything specifically. It was just us digging deep. So this season, it'll be interesting to see, because last season it was sort of, we're trying to hold on to our open title hopes. And we sort of went into the locker room thinking we need to win this game and sort of pulled it out. I don't know if it was necessarily an adjustment. So I'm interested to see if the circumstances surrounding this game change how Helix performs. If Helix is a shoo-in number one open title contender and they go and tied at Granite Hills, do they maybe take the foot off the gas a little bit and still think, oh, it's Granite Hills, we'll pull away just like last year? Because if they think that, it's the same thing as Still Canyon. They'll get beat. But yeah, honestly, like you said, I've been talking with, I believe, Chase Carlo from over at Grossmont. And we've been talking. It's definitely the Grossmont Hills League is 4 deep this year, and I mean that's exciting to me, right? Because everybody keeps kind of ragging on like Helix as the Patriots of San Diego, where they've said, oh, they have an easy league. Well, I'm glad that's not a thing anymore, because people have talked about, oh, the Western League, the Avocado League. People just underrate the Grossmont Hills League, and I'm glad that it's finally being recognized for what it is. It's a very competitive, contentious league.
Chase, got to tell you, we kind of broke some news on the last show we had with Coach Longerbone and Coach Casey Ash. The Grossmont Conference has moved just this past week, maybe within the last 24 to 48 hours, on a contingency plan that would make a 4-team league in the Hills League next year and a 7-team league in the Valley League next year. Now, Monte Vista was expected to be the team to come over to the Hills League next season to even things out on a 6-5 format as they kind of switch Valhalla and El Capitan possibly back into the other league. But now they've almost scrapped that plan and thrown it out the window just 7 or 8 weeks into this season. So what's happened is Coach Longerbone has actually started on plans on finding that 4th opponent, thinking that this indeed could happen. Now, it's kind of short notice. I'm not just throwing this out there. We've spoken to 3 coaches within the conference that said, yes, there's been some talk about it within the last 24 hours. It might be too late actually to do this, not with any kind of structured rules or anything, but just the logistics of it. But still, it's something that kind of our local guys, Dave has been kind of calling for this in a way. And if you look at those top 4 teams we're talking about, in Division 1, and all the other teams are in Division 3 or lower, it seems to make sense. But no one, I don't know, a 3-team league kind of, I don't know if it misses anything, though, with these 4 teams. Just kind of awkward 4-team league. I think that's what they're wondering about.
Yeah, I get the concerns about like the awkwardness of a 4-team league, but I'd say, would you rather have a competitive 4-team league where everybody is getting their hand in the pot and it's going to be a close race to the end, and you don't have a last week game where Grossmont is playing against El Cap and Helix is playing against Steel Canyon, and between Helix and Grossmont, whoever wins their game is going to win the league. That's not a fun final week because we know Grossmont's going to win their game, so all the pressure's on Helix. If you make it a 7-team conference in the Valley and a 4-team conference in the Hills, I think you do away with that. And like you said, if it's always really been top 4 teams, and then 5th team in the Hills has always been sort of that outcast, sort of not really competing very heavily. And so I think that'll be an actually beneficial change for the Grossmont leagues.
Dave, I'll just kind of wrap up this Helix game. Sorry to take you guys so long, but that's obviously a very interesting topic. Also want to clear up something that Chase alluded to. I know a lot of us are talking about it already on Twitter, but we're only 4% of the population. So Chase, right now, the official in-season power rankings came out. I might have alluded to them at the beginning of the show, but the key thing here is that Helix is number 1, and Steel Canyon was, I would say, surprisingly number 2, ahead of Cathedral Catholic and St. Augustine. It kind of plays into a situation that those top 3 teams, and what I like to call the Gauntlet Series, Helix, Cathedral Canyon, and Saints, might be in a position to still secure open division spots along with Steel Canyon, giving the Grossmont Conference 2 teams in the final. And that includes the fact if somehow Steel Canyon, I don't say somehow, we want to rate that game pretty even since it's at Steel Canyon and Steel Canyon won last year. But, if Helix maybe were to come out on, or I should say, guys, if Steel Canyon were to still come out on top in that game, Helix could still maybe stay at number 4 type of thing. That's how strong their rating is. And again, there was a lot of misconception about those ratings when they saw teams like Santana and Vincent Memorial ranked within the top 10 teams, 5 and 10 teams in the county. So a lot of people are misunderstanding how to read those. Obviously, you just have to read the ratings within each division the way CIF is laying it out, but it does lead to a lot of confusion. No one in their right mind is going to put some of those lower division teams up with these other teams. Maybe CIF has some splaining to do. Maybe they've explained it to the coaches and they all understand. And I think we all understand as long as we keep it within the rating within each league, that's the standings. But there is some confusion out there when you see a team like Santana had a rating, I think, of 11, which was above teams like Carlsbad, Grossmont, Lincoln, Oceanside, blah, blah, blah. And, Santana is certainly better than maybe the best team that they're ranked as Division 4. They're probably up there. Maybe they're a very good Division 3 team this year, something like that. So let's just go.
They're a great team. I'm going to interject real quick too. It's the same thing that it was 2 years ago. Same ranking and issues as far as Steel Canyon was overlooked. And I hate to tell these skeptics, but what happened with Steel Canyon 2 years ago? I believe they won a state championship. So I'm going to leave it at that.
That's what's the great thing about these divisions, and everyone gets a chance. And hey, this is Santana's chance now. We're going to talk about them in just a minute. Want to wrap up the Highlanders. They're playing the perennial power from Westlake Village this week, but maybe this isn't the same version that we've seen of some of the previous Oaks Christian teams. These Lions are just 31st in the southern section. They'll kind of have to pull a sneak attack probably to beat the Highlanders in this one. So yeah, let's move on to those Cougars. Sure. You guys already talked about them a little bit, guys. Well, Chase, you mentioned Antoine Walker and your pick six tragedy, but hey, he doesn't surprise you, 3 interceptions in the win over Otay Ranch last week in a 21-14 win. Senior quarterback Jeremy Mendez-Gal continues to improve his passing each and every week. He had 234 yards in the game. Chris Carter caught a touchdown, ran for a touchdown. Dave, the Cougars defense may be better than all 3 of those great teams we keep talking about. We had Cam Ewert on with us a little while ago. Also guys like Colton Guerrero, Luis Alvarado, and don't forget our man Rugby Morris.
Good old Rugby. He was our player of the week. I think that was after the first week. I count them. I think it was 3 sacks just right out the gate. So I mean, the interior, we already mentioned the secondary, and as Chase has already mentioned too, let's not forget the quarterback is not too bad himself. He's not. We're not saying that he's a fish or he's innate, but you know what? I think it's a system also, and I think that they're working the system, and I think I will tell you right now, not the best, but they have one of the best coaching staffs, hands down, and that is also the reason for the success over there in Spring Valley at Steel Canyon.
I absolutely agree with the sentiment that it's their coaching staff that's a lot that gets a lot of the credit for their success. I got to work with Coach Longerbone in the Dean Spanos All-Star game last season, and just first of all, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Really great with the players. He's just such a quality person, and I mean, I think you see that all around the East County. I think the East County is really good with a lot of coaches being great with players and building young men first, football players second. But also, when you look at Steel Canyon's schedule, they've absolutely desecrated the South Bay so far this season. They've won a big game against Madison. I think that this week is going to be sort of a cakewalk for them. And no offense to Mira Mesa, no offense to Coach Thompson. Love Coach Thompson up there. But I mean, Mira Mesa is coming off of a season where they were really good, but then graduated people like, I think, Marcus Dean, Noah Tumblin, a big graduate.
Yeah, Noah.
And so honestly, I think last season this game is a lot closer. But this season with Chance Johnson, with the success that we've seen from Steel Canyon, I think it's a no-brainer. I think Steel Canyon is probably going to win this one.
Yeah, no. You mentioned Noah Tumlin. You were mentioning, I think it was last week too, though. Let's not forget. Was it that you were talking about, Ramon, that Noah Tumlin's brother is now taking snaps behind center, and that could very well be in the next 2 years the next guy to step up to the plate, and he's looking pretty good according to many of the conglomerates that we speak with on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I will tell you that Mira Mesa has been a pretty good matchup for Steel over those past 2 years. There's a bit of a difference, maybe a bigger difference this year, but Mira Mesa had actually played pretty good in the first half of those 2 games over the last 2 years, but Steel Canyon ended up kind of taking over the game in the second half. This year, it's going to be mostly about running back Elijah Thomas. He gets more than 50% of Mira Mesa's touches right now. I will add, even though a lot of the projections kind of have Steel Canyon as maybe 3 or 4 touchdown favorites in this one, I will tell you that the Marauders do return their good linebacker, Fave Liomiti, this week, and a few other players who have sat out for various reasons. There was a period to sit out. They will be back this week. Liomiti and Thomas both played in this matchup last year. So while everyone's kind of predicting maybe 3 or 4 scores, I'm going to be a little more conservative, give Mira Mesa a chance because of Coach Thompson's abilities to, maybe get a good plan together. And he has still, I would think, some Mira Mesa talent. So I'm going to maybe call it within 2 touchdowns. Chase, that's the game I'm going to. So just hoping for a closer game, really.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm going over to the Helix game, and as much as I want to see a blowout, I also don't want to sit through a blowout. So I'm hoping Oaks Christian keeps it close, and in the same vein, I hope it's Mira Mesa keeps it close because I do like Coach Thompson, and I would like to see him really keep it close against a very competitive Steel Canyon team, just to make sure that the Marauder culture is still alive up there.
Okay, I didn't know you were going to the Helix game, Chase. That's good news. Dave, if you could.
I just wanted to also, I wanted to put my 2 cents in on there. And as we all know, I definitely am a fan of just the way that they do things, no matter who they play. And if you've ever heard Coach Longerbone talk about each and every team that he plays, he always has such a great relationship with all of the coaching staffs. And, win or lose, he always says, oh, those are great guys over there. they meet at the same establishments, we'll say, after the game, win or lose. And after this win, even at Otay, I think that was big as well. And I think that this next one too, it's going to be the same thing. Mira Mesa, I think they're not the same Mira Mesa team. They're going to be down a little bit without their quarterback. So I'm going to have to say, with that defense and the offense improving, I think they're going to pound the ball and they're just going to let the defense play their game. And I would probably expect a low-scoring game, and for Steel Canyon probably to end up winning this one by 14.
Okay, so we're unanimous on that one. I know we're taking forever, guys. I just want to go back to one thing, Chase. You mentioned on the Helix game. Dave, Chase, I know you saw this. Dave, I don't know if you've seen this. I just want to say this this past week. Ezekiel Noah, the former Highlander, in the game against Air Force. I mean, he's already shown every game to just leading that Boise defense, really becoming one of the top players on the team. He was actually playing the game of his career against Air Force. He had 10 tackles. When he was injured, Dave, on a play, he's wrecked his knee again, I'm afraid, a torn ACL as well as a broken wrist. It's week 4. I know that he's going to remain in school. And Chase, I'm just heartbroken right now. I'm trying not to cry, but yeah, could you please help me out?
Well, I mean, obviously, feel horrible for Zeke, first of all, because I mean, he plays the game with a love that, I mean, a lot you don't see out of a lot of people. That's what's really unique about him. Another group of people I feel bad for and want to extend my best wishes to is, first of all, my good friend Lelian over at Helix and the entire Noah family, who are really caring people. Love all of them. They're really supportive of me, and obviously I love Fado. So really want to send my best wishes at the time, what they're going through right now. Obviously, football is a big part of their family. They've still got Fado and little Puka Stewart, not Stewart, that's from Otay Ranch, Puka Noah over at Helix. He's a freshman right now on the come up. But just love that family with all my heart, and I wish nothing but the best for them moving forward. Hopefully, Zeke comes back the same player he was.
And last but not least, but let's not forget, and I just saw him 2 weeks ago against BYU. Unfortunately, SC did get the short end of the stick on that one, but I got to see quite a few plays with Mr. Isaac Taylor Stewart out there, and he made quite a few plays, and he's been playing pretty healthy. Personal opinion, I think they should change his position, but I'm not the coach. But I definitely think that he has made an impact since he's been there at SC. Unfortunately, they did lose to my opinion, a pretty good BYU team.
Okay, I think I've regrouped now. Thank you, guys. Number 12, Madison. Number 9, Grossmont. Well, that's what they were, but I'm using the power rankings now, the in-season power rankings. Number 14, Madison, and number 6, Grossmont. This really, we talk about these other games, the featured attraction of the West Hills, El Cap, the big Helix game. But look at this one. These are kind of 2 ranked teams. The Foothillers, they had homecoming pep rally on morning local television last week and then went out and defeated Valley View of Moreno 38-0. They led 38-0 at halftime. But now Grossmont gets its toughest opponent of the season, Dave, in a rematch of that playoff game last November when the Hillers upset the Warhawks. Everyone knows by now the pass. Odom to Schicker wins.
Schicker.
Lights go out. Madison missed a field goal. Keenan Christian was running up and down the field. So anyways, Odom and Schicker, they've already combined this season, Dave, for 14 scores and over 1,200 yards. That's Odom's statistics, but five connections with Schicker so far this year. And don't overlook, you talk about him every time, Dave, but Robert Tucker, the junior running back, has 10 touchdowns. He had a huge game. His 5th rushing touchdown of the season last week. He's had some big performances, and the shutout was Grossmont's first in 2 years. Chris Alba, Cam Sanderlin, both had 9 tackles. Matt Mellinger finished with 7 tackles. Dave, big rematch.
Let's also not forget, we got Tucker back, but let's not forget that we have a healthy offensive line that they were supposed to have last year. They lost it early on in the season, didn't get everybody back. Let's not forget about Mr. Defense himself, the leading tackler. Christopher Alba has been lights out for that Hiller defense. And let's also not forget, I don't have his last name at this moment, but Devin also in the backfield. It's not just Tucker back there, although he is getting the carries. But between Tucker and Odom, the amount of yardage, 800 yards, 668 yards. Just in 2 separate games. And then the latest on Odom, 5,000 yards. And they announced that he had it at the beginning of the fourth quarter against Olympian. I tell you what, by the end of the year, who knows what kind of numbers. And that was I think he was the third passer that had gone over 5,000 yards in 8 years over at Grossmont.
Hey, Chase, I don't know if Jamie's statistics includes your 40-yard bomb you caught from him last week on that podcast.
I would hope that they would reflect that in the statistics. That was the most athletic catch I've made in my life.
That was the first take, and you weren't doing it again, I imagine.
One take, I was not doing it again. If I dropped it, I was going to apologize to the viewers and move on with my life. But, right now, as much as I want to go with a hot take and pick Madison, I am, for the first time in my life, in Grossmont's good graces. After about 18 years of being a Helix kid and slandering them week in and week out, they have finally recognized me on their Instagram, and I don't want to ruin that. So I will pick Grossmont this week, and I will extend them an olive branch. If they can get me a Grossmont hat, I will go against all of my principles, and I will wear a Grossmont hat in a video. So Grossmont football, if you guys can do that, I would be totally willing to extend the olive branch. And I will pick you guys for the rest of the season for every game except for Helix. But yeah, this one I'll take Jamie Odom and Grossmont, my good friend, as I will now call him from now on, Jamie Odom and Grossmont by, let's go, 10.
Dave,
and I'll tell you,
is it Jamie Odom, or as I saw himself refer to him last week, Chase, on television there twice? Jamie's getting older, and when Allie brought that microphone, he all of a sudden turned into James Odom.
James Odom, I guess.
Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a little early yet to be referring him to James Odom, but I'll tell you what, he has definitely matured since he started his sophomore year. I'll also say that he's been spectacular. Talking to him and getting quotes from him has been just fantastic, because he's matured so much that he gives it to his line, he gives it to his good buddy Robert Tucker, he gives it to Coach Tom Carlo, and he doesn't mention Jamie Odom. He typically gives credit, and of course we also know that Schicker is one of his favorite targets as well. And he does miss Mr. Thomas Magnum, that's over at Mesa College now, of course. But I really think that if there was ever a year, no offense, Chase, but if there was ever a year that there's a slight chance, I'm gonna say it, and you guys
Don't say it.
I'm gonna say it, and you know what? If there's one person, too bad my father's not alive right now, but if there would be one other person that would be proud of this right now, I am gonna go out on a limb, and if so, we'll just do a lunch. I am gonna go out and I'm gonna say the Grossmont Foothillers are gonna win by 3 points
Against Madison, right? And not You're not talking about.
No, I'm not talking about the Musket.
Oh.
Okay.
I
That's
thought
what we all thought you were alluding to.
No. I'm saying that will. No, I am also talking about that. I think it'll be a much more competitive game against Helix. They are not going to beat them by 40 or 50 points. and I will guarantee that I don't see that happening again. But yes, with Madison, after watching Steel Canyon beat them, I think Granite Hills. I think that I still think that that was a fluke. I think Granite Hills had a good chance of beating them as well. And with that being said, at least by a field goal in a higher scoring game, I think that I'm going to have to take the Grossmont Foothillers, and Madison is going to go home with their tail between their legs.
Yeah, guys. Look, I mean, it should be noted that Steel Canyon defeated Madison right on the road earlier this season, but fellow Grossmont Hills League contender Granite Hills lost at that same field a week later. Grossmont is currently rated in between those two teams, kind of like spaced evenly, right? But now they're at home in this game. They're kind of rated highly. Chase, for all the criticism that Grossmont kind of gets on that schedule, by all accounts, by the official in-season CIF rankings, they are playing the weakest schedule in Division I. But you know what? It's worked out okay because they're in sixth place in that standing. So I don't think there's anything wrong with me, saying that. So I think Grossmont is expected to win this game. So of course I'm going to pick that they're going to win this game.
Well, 7 games at home, that definitely helps your cause in a 10-game season. But and I wish them all the best too. CIF changes the whole program, but we'll get into that in a couple of weeks.
Okay. I don't know what you mean by that, but I'm curious. I will mention, Dave, you mentioned Devin, of course, has Devin Jackson done a nice job, 9 receptions this year, and at least we not forget about Jamal Neville's giving Tucker a breather, and he's actually run the ball very, very well. So I think we're unanimous, right? We all like Grossmont, but, I think Keontae Springs is kind of a wild card, and Grossmont's, Madison's played one of the toughest schedules of all the teams in Division I. So that kind of evens things out. It's going to be a very, very good game. No other way around it. No other way to look at it. Okay, Granite Hills, they're coming off a shutout win 2 weeks ago, 20-0 over Westview. Behind that defense, you guys talked.
Where's my hat?
Dave,
I need to find my hat.
Dave, Jeremiah Sapberry, Michael Wallace, Zoe Cuero, Matt Millam, and Ethan Bishop did a great job getting that shutout for the Eagles. And junior quarterback Justice McComb, he rushed for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. Senior wide receiver James Johnson had 10 receptions in the contest. Johnson now has 32 catches for over 400 yards this season. Dave, Granite's playing the Southwest Eagles, which lost at West Hills 34-14 in the season opener, but they do come in with a 2-game winning streak. This one should be one-sided in Granite's favor. I guess I couldn't go wrong if I picked the Eagles.
Well, let's just go back even to the last game. How many passing yards for Westview? How many yards was it?
I think that was a big fat 0.
So holding a team, I don't care what team you're playing. If you can hold a team for 4 quarters and not allow a pass to go forward, I think you're really doing something right. Not to mention, they have Kevon Martin back now. This will be the 2nd game back. That is huge to complement Junie Jones in the backfield. Junie can probably now concentrate more on the kickoff and punt returns. Yeah, Junie Harris. And then, of course, you mentioned James Johnson as well. He's still his go-to guy for Justin McComb. And we always forget too. There's always Sutterberg as well. He's the 2nd guy to go to, and that's the offensive part of the game. But let's not forget about that defense once again with Matt Millam and Sapberry, like we had on last week, and all the great things that he had to say about every single one of those guys. Pretty good, big size guys, and even the secondary is pretty impressive. Obviously, anytime you shut a team out, I don't care what team it is, I think that defense, and again, all those looks, and I asked Matt Millam, how in the world do you have that many looks up front and remember every single one of them? And he says that's why most of the time they spend more than 3 hours figuring out those different looks, and they use different looks every week with those against those offensive coordinators. And once again, I wouldn't want to be Dave Beazer having to face some team like that, which they don't, obviously. I wouldn't want to be Coach Longerbone. Shoot, he's even said it. We've had some close games every time we play Granite Hills, but man, it's tough to play against that kind of defense. It's always changing it up. Southwest, unfortunately, from what I've seen this year, they're down. I think Granite Hills on both sides of the ball, including special teams. I think Granite Hills will win this by at least 3 touchdowns very easily.
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna go even further than that. I'm gonna drop my hot take right here. I'm very big on Justice McCombs, so I'm going to say Granite Hills first of all shuts out Southwest, and I'm going to say that Granite Hills drops a 60 burger in this one.
Yeah,
all right.
They might show a little too much respect, Chase. I see where you're going with that. I don't know. I'd dial it back a little bit. Maybe 49-7, 42-7. I think they might show them a little bit of respect.
Probably.
And it's a long trip out there too. And maybe some other players will get to play because it's kind of a special deal to go out. And hey, it's a nice chance to get some people some real experience where you're playing in a rugged environment but expected to win. It's a nice spot to get a lot of people some real good work. So I think that's the way I kind of look at it in this one. I kind of won't go too much further into it because I'm keeping Chase past his bedtime, Dave.
Hey, we can sit here and talk about my Eagles all night. Let me tell you, because I'll tell you what too. Not only are they a great team in the stands at home, but they travel well too. The Granite Hills Eagles fans, they support their team. You don't see a lot of that these days with a majority of the team. So it's always good to see that as well, and the great support that they get from the admin to the parents to the booster. I mean, Granite Hills, I think that's part of their success.
Chase, tell me a little bit what you know about Macomb. I just know that I kind of tout the connection of J.D. Laverdier and Jaheim Allen Pompey as one of the most prolific in the county. And yardage-wise, it might be, but I think that Macomb and Johnson may actually have connected more. They have the 32 catches, which is a tremendous amount after just 4 games. And they had a tremendous Johnson caught a lot of balls last year, from the quarterback. But this year with Macomb in as a junior, his relationship goes back a long ways, I think, with Johnson to youth football, doesn't it? Do you know about him in that way?
I'm not sure. I haven't actually gotten out to a Granite Hills game yet. When I do, I'm probably going to talk to Jeff a lot because I love him. Like in the clips I've seen him play, I do like his play style. I do like just the way he handles himself on the field. So I'll be sure to get into a few conversations with him when I cover that game.
I think he has I think his rapport with Johnson may go back to youth football. I think the families tried to clue me in on that, and I just missed the message. I caught some of it. It's an old message, but I remember that now. And I was thinking about when I read that 32 catches. I wrote it right here, but 32 catches already after 4 weeks. Wow. And 10 catches last week. So, okay, I got the Eagles, the Granite Hills Eagles, of course, easily winning that one. Got to keep you guys going, man. This is great. Okay, this is a great game to talk about. Man, this show's so long, but look at this one. Now you got an interesting matchup because you have 5-0 Vincent Memorial against 5-0 Santana, the number of one teams in Division 4 and Division 5. Last Friday night, Santana fought off the traffic. Then they torched Montgomery, which came in ranked second in Division 4. It was 35-6, the final. Sultans improved to 5-0, which is the team's best start in 8 years. So this week, Dave, they're going to host the top-ranked team in Division 5, the Scots. Final tune-up before the Grossmont Valley League race that the Sultans, by the way, have flat-out played their way into the role of favorite. There's just no getting around it, guys. And, of course, they're going to open up with maybe the number 2 team, Mount Miguel. But first, they got to beat this Vincent Memorial team who you saw take down the Braves last week. Fair enough. They did a good job. Braves fought hard. did a pretty decent job. Weren't really that close on the scoreboard, but last week Santana had a little bit of difficulty. For some reason they used Highway 8 and Highway 5 to get down to Palm Avenue, which isn't the way to go on a Friday night. But then they got off the bus, they gave them 10 extra minutes, and the Sultans took care of business. Wide receiver Randy Smith caught 3 touchdown passes from Nathan Temple, 2 in the first half. The Sultans led just 14-6 at halftime, but Brooks Mutaw rushed for a touchdown, and Temple threw another touchdown in the second half to Nathan Hughes. Hughes, our buddy Dave, he also had a pair of interceptions on defense, made 7 tackles, kicked 5 extra points. He might have even put the equipment on the bus before they went back home.
Well, I got to tell you something. I'm very impressed with the way that Santana has played this year. What convinced me that they were legitimate, and even a quote from because Coach Casey Ash went down to catch that action, and he had some great things to say, not so much about the quarterback position, but he said both the offensive line and the defensive line. He said, I was very impressed how disciplined and how athletic that they played. And he said that, I tell you what, Santana this year is definitely a legitimate undefeated team right now. And for Casey Ash to say that about his foe that's right down the street on Mass Boulevard, I think that's huge. Now, I did see the tail end of Santana earlier this year, the 40-0 knocking off their favorite team, the Mariners from Mar Vista. However, I think that this Division 5 team, be that they are Division 5, I could easily see them going up a Division 4, Division 3, maybe even if they get their numbers up. Because I'll tell you what, talent-wise, El Cajon has played fantastic this year, and I don't want to take anything away from them because defensively, I just think they were on the field way too long. And what it was is the game plan was to wear down the defense, and that opened up many holes. They had a great balance. And let me tell you something, that quarterback that Vincent Memorial has this year is lights out. You watch the highlight reel or any of the highlights I shot from last week. I mean, he's back at the his own 20-yard line, and he's dashing. He's darting back and forth. He's got defenders jumping at him, falling at his feet, and then all of a sudden he launches one across his body, and here's number 20 right there, perfectly put into his breadbasket, and he's off. Touchdown, Scots. And I'll tell you what, he did. I think he had another one like that. He was under duress, and the way that he launched this and was precise, and he was under duress many times in this game. Not to mention their running game is lackluster, but he is just so fast. He's a smart quarterback. If he's in it, and he's very good at getting rid of the ball. If he feels the pressure, he's not going to be able to get out of trouble. He throws the ball away. So very disciplined offensive line as well. Couple of false start penalties, but for the most part, Santana has their hands full. And I don't want to take anything away from Coach Estes and Nathan Hughes, Nathan Temple, Mutaw. I don't want to take anything away from any of those guys, but I'll tell you what, they're not going to be scoring 40 to 50 points against this defense either, even though they are Division 5. And their defense better be on alert. And that includes Jared Forster, which is a fantastic defender also. Santana has a great defense. This one, though, it's going to be a tough one. I'm going to say Santana will win, but I'm going to only take them by 7.
Chase, who he's talking about for Vincent Memorial is quarterback Hernando Rivas and receiver Max Diaz. And they helped the Scots get out to that 14-0 lead on the Braves last week. certainly they do come in with a lot of respect. They went out and spoiled the Braves' homecoming. Sort of has been a great season for the Braves, but they were up against it in that one. So what do you think this week with these great – it's a great matchup. We're talking about these other games. Look at this, 5-0 and 5-0.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take the Scots by 7. You talk about Hernan Olivas. He's currently got up over 1,000 yards on the year. He's averaging 17.6 yards per attempt. He's got a touchdown interception ratio of 13-4. When I'm looking down this kid's stat line, everything else is impressing me, and I see that. And we talk about conservative quarterbacking, but this isn't just conservative quarterbacking because it's not like he's holding the ball and making the smart throws. Like Dave was talking, this kid is Patrick Mahomes making his way around the field, throwing across his body, throwing it deep, throwing up jump balls. He knows how to place the ball. That's what that tells me. I haven't seen him play, but just from the accounts that Dave has given me, mixed with his stat line, I can tell you this is probably a kid who is precisely drilling that ball in there, getting his receivers open. And you want to talk about his receivers, you have Alejandro Cervantes and Emilio Abizaid. And both of them with 17 and 15 receptions each on the year, both of them up over 250 yards. This offense is something dangerous. And for the people out there that want to say, that want to default to the usual excuse from the IV teams and the Calexico teams of, oh, well, it's such a long drive, they'll be fatigued once they get up here. They showed last week that doesn't affect them, right? They can drive up, they can whoop a team from the East County on that drive. So I like Santana this year. I think they will win the Grossmont Valley League, but Vincent Memorial's stat line really speaks for itself.
Well, it was nice having Chase Osborne on the show, and this is going to be last week. Chase Osborne is with us, Dave, after going against our Sultans. No, I don't mind the upset pick at all, but I just, caution you and everyone else, of course. Nathan Temple putting up numbers that has him on pace probably to reach his proclaimed 40-touchdown goal this season. The senior's thrown for nearly 1,000 yards already and 18 touchdowns. And, of course, he's going off with Smith, who has 11 touchdowns in just 21
Unbelievable
so far this season. So Santana hasn't won a Grossmont League championship this century, but we got him as the team to beat unanimously right now on this poll. And you look where they are, sitting atop Division 4. They're actually going for trying to achieve something that no Sultan team has ever done, and they've got a big, big chance to do that. We don't want them to overlook this club, though. The Sultans have already defeated the number 2 team in Division 4, Sarah. Then also Sarah ended up. Here's a shocker, you guys. Last week, I know you saw this. Sarah ended San Diego's 15-game winning streak last Friday night. So that should give an indication at the level of success that Santana could achieve this fall, and it goes beyond that league championship. So I've got the Sultans, and I've got them kind of big here. I was thinking more like a 2-touchdown win for Santana. So,
okay.
I'll give you that.
I'm kind of going out on the limb here. Okay. All right, guys, gotta go. Hey, Kearney and Valhalla, this is another important game, believe it or not, between these two teams. And right now, the Comets and Norsemen, they're kind of in that mix with West Hills and El Capitan in Division 3. That puts significance on this matchup. Last week I went and saw Valhalla in that game against Mount Miguel, and Valhalla did a great job getting off to the early lead. It was Hussein Bakir, not Keegan Baker, but Hussein Bakir. And everybody said, there goes Bakir, there goes Baker, there goes Bakir. It was Bakir that had the bust-off 58-yard touchdown run on the second play of the game last Friday. The junior helped his team to a 14-0 lead, but Mount Miguel overcame the deficit with a 33-12 second half and gave the Norsemen their second straight defeat. Baker, though, he ended up rushing for nearly 200 yards and a pair of touchdowns, including his own long 70-yard score. It actually gave Valhalla a 21-19 lead with just over a minute and a half into the third quarter. Baker has nearly 800 yards rushing this season with 11 touchdowns. The Comets, they defeated University City last Friday night 49-27, while the Norsemen defeated those same Centurions 34-20 in the season opener, Dave, if you remember back in the beginning of the season in southeastern El Cajon.
Okay, but here's one thing to keep in mind, too. What do you I don't know the status. Maybe you do, or one of the two of you do. I think that's huge too. Is Meredith going to be taking a couple of snaps now? I think that's going to be very vital to the Valhalla offense if he does in fact start, because then that adds to not being so one-dimensional with Baker.
I mean, you can call Josh Meredith the reverse Isaiah Wooden, right? Isaiah Wooden started his career at Valhalla, transferred to Helix. You got Valhalla finally getting their revenge on Helix for taking that prize away from them. You got Josh Meredith transferring to Valhalla from Helix. And I think I'm not sure on the status of whether or not he is playing. I might be able to get that intel later in the week. I don't know. We'll see. But if he is playing, that's big for Valhalla because speaking firsthand experience, being able to throw to that kid last season just in practice one-on-ones, he's special, right? He doesn't have all of the talent yet, but he has the potential to reach that level. And I think this will be a bust out season for him when he does come back. And if this week is that game, Kearney needs to watch out because he's going to be dangerous. I will mention if he does play and if Olan Kassad from Kearney plays, it will be an interesting Helix transfer versus Helix transfer matchup right there. Olan versus Josh Meredith. And I'd actually really want to see that game. I might log into somebody's huddle to watch that one.
So on this one, I don't know what you got on this one, Chase, but I really wish I knew if Meredith was coming back. That would help make the decision.
Last week, I'm a little old. I'm pretty sure he was already. He appeared, I believe, at kicker last week. So I'm trying to remember now, and I apologize, guys. I should go back and look at my notes and be more prepared for you. I believe he's. I don't know how more developed his role will be. I don't recall. Maybe he had other plays in the game, but I think he was on the field.
Well, if I will say this, then if Meredith is ready to go and he is going to play through the duration of the game, and you have the healthy Baker also, I think that makes this a very close game at that point. And I think that I would take Valhalla since they are at home with the upset by 3 over Kearney.
Chase, is this the toughest game we're giving you this week to make a pick on?
I think I'm going to pick by stipulation. I say if Josh Meredith plays, I'll give Valhalla the game by a touchdown. If he does not play, I will give Kearney the game by a touchdown. So if anybody is watching this after they've realized the status of Josh Meredith, depending on whether or not he's playing, that is my pick. Either Kearney by 7 or Valhalla by 7. So you heard it here first. Meredith is a 14-point swing.
I feel bad now because I'm pretty sure he was in that game. He was at the game last week. I'm pretty sure I saw him. He attempts kicks, right, Chase? He can.
I think so. He can. He for sure can. I don't think he's at Helix, but at a school that needs a kicker, I think he can. Yeah.
Did you ever hold for him goofing around or practicing?
No, I wish I did. That was the one I helped for Chris Rivera, and I imagine he is very much like Chris Rivera. He's got the big hair, so I mean.
Well, I was the reason I even had some of the intel on, and I was asking about it. Working over as like camp supervisor over at West Hills, and talking with Q London and Quentin London, and that was one of the. He was very impressed. Everybody talks about Baker and everything. He said, that team is good with Baker. He goes, but I'll tell you what people are forgetting is really how much better, even better they are with Meredith at quarterback.
Yeah, guys, Kearney has some great talent. Their junior running back, Nico Estrada, is averaging nearly 200 yards a game on the ground. They got their own Baker, right? And senior quarterback Mario Alves has 8 touchdown passes, over 750 yards this season. So, I don't know. The computers have Kearney ahead of Valhalla. Those official rankings that came out just a little bit, but Valhalla's at home, and maybe Valhalla's made that improvement this year. That maybe this just hasn't found the measure of the analytics. So I'm going to stick with Valhalla in this one. All right, take a look at this one, Dave. We had this week J.D. Laverdier on. He accounted for, get this, 7 touchdowns in that game that I attended last week, including 4 rushing scores. I kind of teased him, Chase. I said he's got those Tom Brady rushing statistics. He's averaging less than 2 yards a carry. Yet he's got 5 rushing touchdowns. But he's putting up 300-yard games like Dan Fouts. He had 351 yards in the air last week. He has over 1,300 yards and 14 touchdowns already this season. And our other friend, Jaheim Allen Pompey, 10 receptions in the game, 246 yards in reception yardage. The senior now has 10 touchdowns from Laverdier, nearly 800 yards receiving. Certainly, as I continue to say, just making up one of the county's most prolific pass combos, Dave.
I tell you what, I think that they're another underrated team, and I think they're a sneaky team. I don't think the jury's out really yet on them until they start league play. I think they did well for the teams that they did play as far as non-league play. Just those two alone, like you said, they are the prolific tandem, and I think they're going to go far with them. But I'm sure Troy Starr has to come up with something else up his sleeve, because you know that everybody's going to be honed in and probably double coverage on Mr. Allen. So I would say on this one here, they need to find a couple of other recipients on the end of Laverdier. But do I want him running out of the pocket? Probably not so much. I tell you one thing: if you've ever watched him play, he is very, very good and very nimble when he is in that pocket, and he knows whether to step up, to step to the side. I think he would even be good on a couple of bootleg plays, and he can throw across his body pretty well as well. But this game here, not really impressed with Sweetwater. We saw what Santana did to them. I'm definitely going to go with Mount McGill by at least 3 touchdowns.
Now, Ramon, I don't mean to get too cryptic here, but I want to read off some names, see if you can find the theme within them. Brandon Lewis, Michael Austin, and then J.D. Laverdier.
I have maybe just quarterbacks from the La Mesa Spring Valley area.
Close. More importantly, quarterbacks coached by Troy Starr. Troy Starr is, I don't know if you guys have ever watched the Friday Night Lights TV show, but on the series, they make the joke about making a kingmaker. Troy Starr is that kingmaker. He made Brandon Lewis, he made Michael Austin, and now he's making JD over at Mount Miguel. I got to work with Coach Starr. He is a PE coach over at Helix, or at least was when I started out playing my JV year as a junior. And he worked with me on some stuff. And I think in like the 1 week span where I worked with him for maybe like 30 minutes a day while I was TAing for his PE class, the way he coaches QBs is just so much different than every other coach. Every other coach sort of takes their quarterbacks, gives them to a quarterback coach and says, here, teach this kid the fundamentals, and we'll tell him what reads to make, etc. But Coach Starr is a head coach who is also his own QB coach. He develops these kids. He tells them, here's exactly how your footwork is going to work. And if it doesn't look exactly like that, we're going to keep doing it until you get it right. And I think historically what Mount Miguel has lacked has been sort of that elite coaching presence. They've had good coaches, they've had great coaches, but they've lacked that elite coaching presence of a coach that can really develop a kid as a quarterback and really make into his own product that he can develop a playbook around. And I think that's actually why Coach Starr took the job just those few years ago, because he knew this was an opportunity to take a program, the bare bones of a program, and develop sort of some of the players to build his own playbook around. And I think JD is now that guy that he is finally saying, we're going to go all in this year. We're building a playbook around this kid. We're building a playbook for this kid, and we're ready to just go with it. So I really love what Mount Miguel has been doing this year. I love what JD's been doing this year, and I'll take Mount Miguel by at least 3 touchdowns as well.
Yeah, and I know this won't affect your guys' pick. In fact, if anything, it'll even make it more one-sided. I have on the graphic there Mount Miguel versus Sweetwater. Dave, maybe you can follow up for me, or I'm trying to find out. The game is definitely not at Sweetwater High School. Their turf is screwed up. They got some bad turf, and they haven't been able to play home game all season. They played 1 or 2 home games at Hilltop, and I was checking to see if maybe Hilltop's at home this week, or why the game wouldn't be at Hilltop. Yeah, Hilltop's hosting Bonita Vista, so I believe that this game is actually at Mount Miguel High School, and that's the way I'm planning on it. And I'll try to find out a little bit more in the next, probably tomorrow. Make sure we got it all straight. I think we're gonna send Thomas out there, Dave, as a stringer, and so we'll let him know. He might already know because I told him about it today, and kind of my bad on that. But I'm pretty sure we're looking at Mount Miguel being at home, so they're going to get a lopsided win here. Certainly, they're not going to look past Sweetwater. But how can you, if you're ever in a look-ahead situation? I don't think it'll be enough for them to even, lose this game against them. But we talked about the situation between Mount Miguel and Santana. That game is at Mount Miguel, so that's a big equalizer. When we're talking about Santana being the league favorite, I think we're talking about the league favorite being Santana just because the way the rankings look and maybe the way the direction of the teams. The Matadors do have a couple of losses and have struggled a little bit against some decent teams on the road, such as Santa Fe Christian. But that game is just a week away now. So that's going to be a huge game. And Mount Miguel's defense, they're going to need to continue their improvement a little bit if they want to match up with the Sultans and get that win at home. But I don't think you guys are going to put it past guys like Quincy Snipes Jr., Julius Ford, Loyola Cree. They did a great job in the second half against the Norsemen. The Red Devils are coming off a 48-0 loss to guess who? Santana. Okay, so you could kind of put 2 and 2 together. Let's see how Mount Miguel does in this game at home. Not that maybe, it might be 48-0, which isn't going to solve much for us trying to make deductions about who's going to win the Santana Mount Miguel game. But the Matadors are, in a situation where they can't afford to lose a game like this, but still the league game. In fact, look, here we get confirmation coming in. Our PPR reporter says, I'll be there. Good. That's what we needed.
Perfect.
All right. Well, I think I have one more game I'm going to review, and, we don't need it. Chase, I just really read Foothills Christians because they're so great. We don't really pick this game. I mean, they'll probably beat Julian, but
they're a powerhouse.
Here's the thing. I think the PPR actually is covering the 8-man game this week at Sayal Field. The Knights won on the road 60-8 over Borrego Springs, a team that kind of gives them a little bit of a game once in a while. But now the Knights are the 13th ranked 8-man team in the state. Foothills led just 8-0 after one quarter, scored 52 points in the second and third quarters combined to lead 60-0 heading into the fourth quarter. Senior Carter Callahan had 17 tackles and an interception to lead the Knights. We'll also mention senior quarterback Tony Moroz, over 200 yards of total offense, and he accounted for 5 touchdowns, including 3 on the ground. And Foothills Christian improved 2-0 in the Ocean League. So, Chase, thanks a lot for doing this. I know it made it go a lot longer probably than you or Dave wanted, but, man, that was good. Dave, where are you going? You're solid on that? You're going to start at Grossmont, and then if that one gets out of hand, go to El Cap or vice versa?
I think I'm going to, since it's a very, I think, just because of how important it is to the community, I think I'm going to go to start off at the Burner Cup, and we'll see how it is. And then after that, I think I'll be taking off after that, and not going to the Helix game, and no, probably check out Grossmont more than likely.
Chase, you're going to Oaks Christian at Helix.
Oh, it's going to be a fun one.
You can follow Chase on Twitter at the Chase Osborn and see his reports with Prep Pigskin Report. Also covering Padre minor leagues for East Village Times. How's that going with James Clark? Tell us about that, Chase. That's probably having a lot of fun. You went up to see some postseason minor league games.
Oh, that was awesome. I got to drive up to Lake Elsinore 4 different days for 4 different postseason games. I got to talk to Garrett Richards, which was awesome. Garrett Richards, who just started for the Padres the other day. He was on rehab, This guy,
What you good?
yeah,
We're glad you're out
it's to me, that's my first major league interview. I'll always count that as my first major league interview. I've already done it. We're already good. But it's a lot of fun being able to write. I love speaking, but writing is also a passion of mine. So that's always been fun. And I'm just glad that James Clark was gonna give me that opportunity. Got to go up, sit in the press box, which was such a surreal experience this early on. But I mean, yeah, it's just been such a fun ride, and yeah, EVT has been pretty cool.
All right, Dave, we got you. Dave, wake up, Dave. Let's get out of here. There you go. All right, let's get us out of here. Good job, you guys. We'll do it again next week. Thanks a lot, Chase, and thanks a lot, Dave. You got anything else for us?
No, I think we pretty much touched on everything. I don't want to beat a dead horse that Dolan was talking about earlier this week. We touched on it couple of days ago as well, and I think we touched on it again with Coach Berner and Coach Casey about the just moving the leagues around and making it a little more competitive. But we'll talk about that once again. I think we've beat that down enough times, and I'm sure that Mr. Wilbur and Jerry Schneip, maybe they'll echo what we have said, and maybe they'll keep it in mind, and we'll see how it plays out. Other than that,
Yeah. Go ahead.
other than that, before we close it out, I'd like to thank our great sponsors, H12 Sports Academy out there in Santee now, and that's our good friend Hoppy Hopgood. If you've ever been out there, or if you haven't been out there, he does a fantastic job with the youth. Even some former names you might know, Danny Yanez from Steel Canyon. He really did some tremendous work with him, and he has his famous hit tracks. You got to check that. That technology is just phenomenal. Also, our good friends, the Coit sons, and also Frank Coit, their father, Mount McGill head coach, and his construction company, AGC Construction Company. And then we also have our good friends Matt Atkinson and Jake over there at Retro Sports. A lot of things that if you can't find them, they can definitely do quite well. And anybody that knows any teams that are looking for some great embroidery, they've done some of our shirts, and they've done some hats, and all kinds of great uniforms for the youth, and even some of the high school teams locally. And how can we ever forget about Al Sports Shop? Does a fantastic job in the Santana area, and he also, it's just he and his folks, personal touch, and he also has he even helps out in the community as far as giving some of those high school kids some jobs from West Hills and Santana out there too. Give them their first taste of the workforce, and also I think that, oh, and not let's not forget about our eateries, Mr. Berner and his Nicolosis, great Italian dishes out there. My favorite, and I'm going to tell you, Chase, you got to get out there and definitely check out the Sicilian baked macaroni and cheese. It is phenomenal. It is worth every penny. It's fantastic. And then also, you can go ahead and say it. You give it your best.
I'll
You
sign
give
it.
it
Maracarillos.
office.
Maracarillos Italian restaurant in El Cajon. All right. I'll get us out of here. Chase got to go to bed. Hey, Dave, you heard what Chase said. He likes to write. So maybe you want to get in touch with him. I could use a rest one of these weekends covering 13 football games. All right. For Dave Dickens, Chase Osborne, I'm Ramon Scott. Thank you for joining us.